I am Cassie, 32 years old, and I had just returned from an important 2-week business trip overseas. My body was heavy with jet lag, my mind foggy from long flights and endless client meetings, but all I could think about was finally unlocking the front door of my house, dropping my suitcase on the floor, and collapsing on the couch that had always been my safe space. Instead, when I pulled into the driveway of my beloved Craftsman home, something was wrong. The curtains were drawn tight, the porch lights I always left on were dark, and when I tried my key in the front door, the key I had guarded like treasure, it wouldn't turn. At first, I thought exhaustion was playing tricks on me. Maybe I was inserting it wrong, maybe the lock had jammed, but after several tries, it hit me like ice water down my spine. The locks had been changed. My heart started racing. Who would change the locks? I hadn't missed any mortgage payments. I hadn't given permission to anyone. My first thought was that maybe the gardener service had made a mistake, but no, that wouldn't make sense. My hands trembled as I tried again, jiggling the key, forcing it, praying the door would swing open. It didn't. Confused, exhausted, and now growing panicked, I got back into my car and drove to my parents' house. I hadn't planned on seeing them, I rarely did unless forced, but I needed answers. Maybe they knew something, maybe it was all a misunderstanding. When I stepped inside, I was greeted not with concern but with laughter. My brother Julian was lounging on the couch like a prince, his phone in hand, showing off glossy pictures of himself standing shirtless on a white sand beach, crystal clear ocean behind him, cocktails lined up at some fancy bar. "Look at this one," he bragged, turning the screen toward my father. "Private villa, infinity pool, that view? Unreal." My mother giggled beside him, her eyes full of pride. My dad leaned back in his recliner, smirking like he had just delivered a punchline no one else understood. And then he said it, words that felt like a physical blow. "Your house paid for their fun." For a moment, I couldn't breathe, my mind went blank, my body frozen as if someone had ripped the ground from under me. My house? My sanctuary? The place I had worked for, sacrificed for, built with my own hands and sweat, sold off like it meant nothing more than a plane ticket and a hotel reservation? I felt my lips curve upward, a smile that wasn't a smile at all but a mask. Inside, my chest was on fire, my stomach twisting in betrayal and rage, but on the outside, I forced calm. That false smile only seemed to irritate my father. "What's so funny?" he snapped, his voice sharp, daring me to answer. I said nothing, not yet, because if I spoke in that moment, I would have exploded, and I wasn't ready to show them my hand. If you are enjoying this story, please let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe to follow my journey of betrayal and unexpected revenge. My name is Cassie Thompson. I am a 32-year-old marketing director, a woman who has built her life brick by brick without a single handout. Since I was 18 years old, I've been on my own. And maybe you wonder why wouldn't a girl lean on her parents if they had the means to support her? The truth is, I learned early on that in my family, support wasn't given equally. Growing up in a modest neighborhood in Portland, the favoritism in our home wasn't subtle, it was obvious, painful, and relentless. My younger brother, Julian, was always the chosen one. My parents' reasoning never changed. "He needs more help than you. You're strong. You'll figure it out." So I figured it out. By high school, I was juggling 3 jobs, mornings in a coffee shop before class, evenings waiting tables at a diner, weekends folding clothes in retail, while also keeping my grades up to earn scholarships. My parents clapped at my independence, but never offered a dollar toward tuition. Meanwhile, when Julian turned 16, he was handed a brand new car with a bow on top and a bank card with no limits. He crashed that car 3 months later, and instead of consequences, he got another one. I should have grown bitter then, but some part of me still craved their approval. I thought if I worked harder, achieved more, proved myself over and over, eventually they would look at me with the same pride they reserved for Julian. But that day never came. Julian, now 27, has never known what it means to work for anything. He drifts from job to job, quitting the moment he feels stressed. My parents bail him out every time, paying his rent, erasing his debts, even funding his silly attempts at fame. Like the podcast about luxury living he abandoned after just 3 episodes. He was spoiled, reckless, entitled, and when his relationships failed, as they always did, my parents treated it like the universe had wronged him. I still remember when his girlfriend of 6 months left him, and my mother cried harder than he did. Me? When I graduated college early, with honors, having worked myself into exhaustion to do it, my father looked me in the eye and said, "You were just lucky. Not everyone finds jobs so easily." I lived frugally for years, in a tiny apartment, cutting corners, sacrificing luxuries, saving every possible dollar. Finally, after 5 years, I bought my dream home, a craftsman-style house with wide plank hardwood floors, a brick fireplace, and sunlight spilling through every window. A house that wasn't just wood and nails but a symbol of everything I had fought for. When my family visited, they criticized it. My mother complained about the work it needed. My father said I probably overpaid. And Julian laughed at the old kitchen while admitting he didn't even know how to cook. Must be nice to be so lucky, he sneered. But I didn't care. For 2 years, I poured love into that house. I restored the floors, painted the walls, planted flowers in the garden. It became my sanctuary, my pride, my proof that I could stand on my own. Then came the Singapore trip, 2 weeks that could decide my career. The timing clashed with the blooming of the roses I had planted in honor of my grandmother Margaret, the only person who ever made me feel truly seen. But work came first. I made arrangements for the garden to be tended. Still, my mother insisted, "Leave us a key, we'll keep an eye on things." Something in me hesitated. A small, sharp instinct screamed no, but against my better judgment, I handed her the key. The day before I left, Julian called, drowning in self-pity. Another girlfriend had dumped him, this one by text. His solution? I need a getaway, a luxury vacation, Bali, Maldives, something to show her what she's missing. When I asked how he could afford that, he sighed like the world was cruel. Mom and Dad won't help this time. They say they're saving for retirement. Can you believe that? So unfair. That night, when I finally passed the key to my mother, I felt the unease crawl through me like a warning. She smiled sweetly, tucking it into her purse. "Don't worry, Cassie," she said. "We'll take good care of everything." I should have listened to my instincts. With Mr. Harrison seated beside me in his calm, lawyerly way, I dialed the Millers. My hands trembled slightly, but I forced my voice to remain steady as I explained what had happened. The reaction on the other end of the line was immediate. We had no idea," Mrs. Miller stammered, her voice breaking. "Oh, Cassie, we thought everything was legitimate. The papers, the signatures, it all looked so real. We've already started renovations. We even tore down the old kitchen wall just this morning." I could hear her husband in the background, his tone lower but equally shaken. "What kind of people would do this? We trusted them." "This is not your fault," I assured them firmly, my voice softening. "You are victims, too. None of this falls on you. My attorney will work with you personally to make this right." Mr. Harrison leaned closer, speaking into the speakerphone with calm authority. "You'll be fully compensated for any expenses or inconvenience. I will also ensure the fraudulent transfer is voided and your title cleared. But your cooperation in this investigation is crucial." The Millers quickly agreed. They promised to provide every scrap of evidence, copies of contracts, bank receipts, emails, even text messages exchanged with the real estate agent. Though shaken, they were eager to help expose the fraud. The next step was the police. At the station, Detective Ramirez listened intently as I laid out the entire situation from the beginning. He scrolled through the video clips from my security cameras with a tight jaw. One file showed my father and Julian rifling through my home office, pulling open drawers, tossing aside papers until they found what they wanted. Another clip, grainier but still damning, caught my mother sitting at the dining table, pen in hand, painstakingly practicing my signature again and again before finally scrawling it across the forged sales documents. When the last clip ended, the silence in the room was heavy. Detective Ramirez finally exhaled. "This is pretty clear-cut fraud and forgery," he said, his voice hard with certainty. "We'll need corroborating statements from the buyers and the agent who facilitated the sale, but frankly, this is some of the strongest evidence I've seen in a while." He tapped the folder shut. "You have a very solid case, Miss Thompson." Walking out of the station with Emma at my side and Mr. Harrison carrying the evidence folder, I felt the first spark of control returning to me. But the victory was short-lived. My phone buzzed with an incoming call, my cousin David. "Cassie?" His voice was tense. "What is going on?" "Uncle Robert just called my dad in a panic, saying you're trying to have them arrested." I stopped in my tracks, closing my eyes. Of course word was spreading. I explained everything, step by step, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. David sighed heavily when I finished. "You know, I'm not surprised. I always knew they treated you unfairly, but this is another level." He hesitated, then added darkly, "Do you even know they bought a brand new SUV with the money? And Julian, he's bragging about the Maldives all over social media. Videos, photos, the works. He's acting like he just won the lottery." My stomach twisted. Their arrogance wasn't just personal betrayal, it was public humiliation. They were parading their theft for the world to see. "There's more," David continued, his voice low, almost reluctant. "I hate to tell you this, but this isn't the first time they've tried something. About a year after Grandma Margaret passed, Uncle Robert told my dad that your father was considering contesting the will. He was convinced you were hiding money she left behind. He actually thought you stole from your own grandmother." His words landed like stones. Painful, but not shocking. In truth, I had always known my parents' greed ran deep, but hearing it confirmed out loud burned all the same. "Thank you for telling me, David," I said quietly. "It only proves what I already knew. They can't be trusted." Over the next few days, Emma and I threw ourselves into preparation. We gathered every record, every document, every video frame. The pile of evidence grew until it felt like a fortress. Mr. Harrison drafted the legal notices, formally invoking the trust provisions that disinherited my parents and Julian for their fraud. Every detail was airtight. But paperwork alone wasn't enough for me. "We should deliver these in person," I said one evening, my voice steady with resolve. "I want to see their faces when they realize exactly what they've done, and what it's going to cost them." Emma looked at me with concern, squeezing my hand gently. "Are you sure? You know it's going to be ugly. They won't go quietly." "I'm sure," I replied without hesitation. "But I won't do it in their house. That's their battlefield, their territory. I want a neutral place. And I want witnesses. No lies. No twisting the story. Just the truth laid bare." After long discussion, we decided. A family dinner. A private room at a respected local restaurant. A place where extended relatives could bear witness to everything. David made the arrangements, telling my parents that I wanted to clear the air. They agreed eagerly, too eagerly. I could almost hear their smugness through the phone, imagining them believing I had caved, that I was ready to apologize, to forgive, to fall back into their control. The night before the gathering, I sat alone in Emma's guest room, staring at an old framed photograph I had carried with me everywhere. It was me as a child in my grandmother's garden, her arm around me, her smile wide and full of warmth. Her eyes, wise, knowing, full of strength, seemed to meet mine across the years. "I wish you were here," I whispered into the quiet. "You always knew how to handle them. You always saw me when they didn't." My fingers traced the edges of the frame. "But you prepared me for this, didn't you? You knew they might try something like this." The photograph said nothing, but in my heart, I felt her answer. I drew a deep breath. "I will make you proud. Not with revenge, but with justice. Tomorrow, I will end this."